What's going on, guys? It's the Blue Chipper, and depending where you're at, the experience, Chase Emery. How we doing tonight?
Awesome. How are you, man? Doing well. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Oh yeah, not a problem at all. So, just to start off, I wanted to say, man, I've seen you wrestle for the past couple of years, and always impressed at how you can flip characters.
Yeah,
Really, really, really enjoy that, and really enjoy watching you wrestle. So,
yeah, we've been
that's the reason.
we've been
Go ahead.
bumping each other a lot here lately, haven't we?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was initially a couple times PWF
Yep.
back in yep, and then here lately, yeah, man, you've definitely picked up being around the area, and I go to a lot of shows, so
Yeah. I've been wanting to get on your podcast for a while. I think one time at a show when I was actually going to the ring, I walked by, and I was like, "Hey, let me get on your podcast."
yeah. We initially I finally got to see you again the first time in a while was at WrestleCade last year.
Yeah.
And that's when we talked, and you're like, "Hey, I've heard of your podcast," and I was floored by that, and I was like, "That's awesome, man!" So yeah, I think it was the WrestleForce show a couple weeks ago or a month ago or so now
Right.
that was our last time, and then yeah, just had to free up some time, man. But I'm glad to have you on. So let's go ahead and let's just jump into this and hit me with what would be your worst road story.
Whew, man, worse. I got a few, but the one that stands out has got to be. It was April of 2022. Okay, so I'd wrestled at the Beach Show. I don't know if you ever heard the Beach Show, which ran by OSCW, Old School Championship Wrestling, down there in Hanahan, South Carolina. And they do a spot show once a year at Isle of Palms, right on the beach. Great show. I actually just did one. They had it again a few weeks ago. They drew like 700 people. And so this was 2 years ago. So I'm coming home from that. And I remember I was the first match that year, and I'd stayed the whole entire show. And, when you do that, you kind of, your adrenaline's up, and then you fall down. So I'd stayed, I helped, I actually stayed after, hung out with some of the guys. And I left kind of later than I normally do. So I was driving pretty late, and I actually on I-26 right below Spartanburg, I actually fell asleep at the wheel, and I wrecked my truck that I was driving at the time. I totaled it, and I swerved off the road and hit like the median cable, and it sliced up my truck. So luckily, it wasn't that bad of a wreck. As soon as I hit it, that's when I woke up, and I didn't jerk the wheel back over or anything. I just tried to slam on the brakes, and I remember just hitting it and thinking, "Oh God," And I immediately, after my truck came to a stop, I immediately tried to call my parents. I remember I couldn't get a hold of my mom. I think I tried to call my brother maybe, and then I ended up getting my dad, which he's usually in bed pretty early. So I was pretty shocked whenever he answered. This was past midnight. I called him, then I called 911. Told them what happened. And they had I remember a state trooper came, and he was talking to me about it. So yeah, that was a rough night, because I remember, that's from where I live. That's about a 4.5 hour drive. And at the time when I was, I was pretty new. Like, I wasn't used to driving as much as I am now, which I'm more used to driving. 4.5's nothing. So, I just got tired, and man, I fell asleep.
Man, I mean, at least it could have been a lot worse, right? At least you were able to walk away, which is great.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what everybody said. Thankfully, thank God. He was watching me that night.
Oh
So
yeah.
no injuries, nothing. Nothing. So, oh man, I am lucky.
Yeah. What year was your truck? That had to be an actual truck, not like what they make now.
Well, it was a 2012 Toyota Tacoma.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, yeah, Tacomas are big boys, so
the Tacomas are, man, those they're a mid-sized truck. They are hard to
yeah.
find, now, because they're so expensive. And if you're buying a used one, around, the year I had one, they get sold up so quick, and they're great trucks.
Yeah. Good deal, man. Yeah, glad that's. I mean, I understand definitely why that's the worst road story, or a bad road story. But yeah, I mean, good ending. You were able to, you were able to walk away. So yeah, I mean, usually a number of I've had a couple of car accident stories, man. And every time I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to discount that as a bad story. So
And I'm just
yeah,
ready for. I think it's after 3 years. That's when the insurance goes back down. So that when you wreck, that insurance goes up,
oh
and
yeah,
but and then after that, it took me because I wanted make sure I got another good car, for wrestling and traveling. So it took me about a month to find a good one after that. So it sucked because I still had other shows I had to get to. I remember I think I rode with a couple of guys, borrowed my mom's car, so
yeah.
I did what I could to make it work. I didn't cancel shows, that's for sure.
That's awesome, man, and that's a positive right there too, man. Like you're like, I'm holding my dates,
Yeah.
so good deal. All right, man. So let's flip this to a good road story. What would be your best road story?
Oh, dude, probably, it's always better when you ride with, some other wrestlers. And I gotta think, just riding me and do you know who Christopher Prince is?
Dude, love Prince, man. Yeah, he's a good dude.
So when I first got into wrestling, 2 weeks later he showed up to the place I trained at and he started. So we broke in right at the same time. Um and we weren't friends. I mean, we weren't really close friends at first, but just over the years of seeing each other all the time, we have become close. And probably the best road trip is me and him, going up to West Virginia together. This was, probably back in December of last year. And I remember we wrestled on a Thursday night in West Virginia. Then we traveled, up north to, northern West Virginia. We was close to Pennsylvania. We wrestled a show, we stayed together in hotels. We ate together. We trained together, in the gyms. And remember just us talking, while we're driving and stuff. And that's the best, probably my favorite so far, road story or road experience.
I'm with you, man. No, yeah, I always think a good travel buddy is definitely worth everything, man. I think it makes every experience better if you got a good friend of yours with you and doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So with that, man. All right. So with that, we'll jump into some questions. The first one is what's your go-to place to eat when you travel?
Ooh, so go-to place, and it is kind of hard to find with the area. So I probably favorite place I go to depends on the area I'm in. So my favorite place, top of the line, is Bob Evans. Oh, I love eating there. So whenever I go there, I'll have their steak and eggs. So they used to have it was like a sirloin steak and for breakfast on their breakfast they have sirloin steak and you can get scrambled eggs with it, an egg option. So I used to get that, and then the last couple of times I've been, they took that off the menu. And I remember me, Chris Prince, and Nathan Cross were at one at a Bob Evans. We was in West Virginia, and they we were like, hey, do y'all still have this as like an option? And they're like, yeah, it's not on the menu, but we can make it. So we did that. But and then this past weekend I was actually at a Bob Evans, and for breakfast I was just by myself, and I asked them if they could do that. And this Bob Evans, the waitress said no, we took that off the menu. So I had to modify it, and so I had to get sirloin tips and egg whites. But it was, I made it work. But yeah, that's the best place to eat.
I got you, man. I think that might be the first Bob Evans call out on here for that one. We get a lot of Sheets and Waffle House and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
gas stations. If I can't find a Bob Evans, I love Sheets gas station because they carry the Zoa energy drinks. That's the rocks.
Mhm.
Oh, those are so good, man. But when I'm in South Carolina, I'll have to go to Quick Trip because there's not many. I don't think there's any Sheets in South Carolina.
Oh wow. Okay. I got you. All right. So the next question is a two-part question. It's who is your first favorite wrestler and who is your favorite wrestler now? It could be the same person. If not, that's, usually I know. I mean, most people have two. So
Yeah. So first favorite wrestler is probably the first ever match I saw was between Kurt Angle and Booker T. And Kurt Angle, he just stood out to me. I don't know. I was drawn to his. It's going to sound weird. I was drawn to his outfit. His gear he was wearing. I love the singlet, how it looked, and then I love the colors of it. And I just remember anytime he wrestled, when he'd take the straps down, I was drawn to that. I remember, he's talking about that all the time. And it's a big reason why I did, amateur wrestling all those years was because I loved Kurt Angle so much.
So that was your first. Would you still say he's your current favorite, or do you have anyone else you're looking at?
Current favorite. Okay, my favorite right now, it's got to be the Dynamite Kid. I first started watching wrestling in 2005, and up until I got into wrestling, I never really went back and watched the old stuff. And I remember, this has been a few, couple of years, but I discovered, Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask and their Japan matches, and just watching that, and it just really stood out with Dynamite Kid, his intensity, how real he made wrestling look, and just when he does a move, you can just see the intensity in his face, but you can also hear him. He'll grunt, and he's got that thick like English accent, that British UK accent. And it just stands out.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, dude. I was like,
and
kind of my kid.
Yeah, and I don't really watch much like modern wrestling that comes on today, but do you see where his nephew actually made his debut for AEW?
Who's his nephew?
His name is Thomas Billington, and he goes by Dynamite Kid Thomas Billington, and he looks.
Yeah. When he made his. Wait, I did. He did. That was like last week, wasn't it? Or
yeah, that's Saturday. He wrestled on.
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
He wrestled Dax.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh man, I did not put that together. I bet they even mentioned it. And I just zoned it out while watching the match. Yeah.
Just like the original Dynamite or his uncle, and
yeah.
He's just smaller, but man, he so I don't, like I said, I don't really watch much new stuff, but I had to watch that match, so I made sure. And this was Saturday, so I was booked at a show, but I'm home. I was driving, actually put it on and watched some highlights.
Yeah,
he hit Dynamite's, because Dynamite used to do this hook like clothesline. He was with the left, and his nephew hit it on. Oh man, it looked great, and he had he emphasize the yelling part of it, because Dynamite always yelled when he did it. It was great.
It's funny that you talk about Dynamite, because him being one of the, when he was with his team, like him and British Bulldog, right? Like they were both big dudes, but you have a very similar build to Dynamite with his shorter stature and his stockiness.
Yeah.
Because you and I are like roughly the same height, but you're like, dude, you're jacked, man. So like,
appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. So it's kind of funny you said that. I was like, he can kind of pull that off. Yeah.
I would like to, I love, Dynamite's look.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man.
Because even though, like you said, he was a shorter guy, but I don't think anybody, well, probably back then they would say, oh, he's might be too small. But if you put him in modern day, dude, like nobody cares about the height, because if you're that jacked,
Yeah. Exactly. It's all about your look, and he definitely had a good look. I have to agree with you on that. All right. So the next question is, who is your favorite person to wrestle?
Ooh, man, that's a good question.
And it's okay if you have multiple, man. I think Chance still holds the record for the number of people he mentioned. Chance Riser. Yeah. So
let's see. I might have a couple.
Yeah.
Probably. I've only wrestled this guy 3 times. His name, you ever heard of Drew Adler?
Oh man, Drew Adler was my 3rd or 4th episode on here. I love Drew.
Really?
He's a good guy, yeah.
So first time I wrestled Drew, it was a little bit of a style of it was a clash of styles and psychology at first, but we had a good match. I thought it was, and then the second time we wrestled, we killed it, man. It was great match. We had a packed out house down in this was at 3 Count Pro Wrestling down in Greenville, and then I wrestled him again in Anderson, South Carolina, beginning of the year. And every time, man, I don't know what it is. I've always heard, some people used to have a connection. You have that chemistry with. I think me and him had that chemistry. We first time we ever touched, it was good. But then other people I like to wrestle is definitely Christopher Prince. Me and him, we've tagged together, we've wrestled together, or against each other. So, and I think each time, those get better and better. So those probably be my two guys right there.
Awesome. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Drew and Chris are both good dudes, man. I enjoyed watching Drew the first time I saw him, and his whole pre-workout gimmick that he had. Oh my goodness, like that killed me, man. Like, and then he's just entertaining all around. So yeah, I can see that. Plus, like, he's got some good psychology in the ring. So I can see what you're saying there, man. All right. So the next question is, do you have a Ricky Morton story?
Oh, Ricky Morton. Yeah. I mean, first time I met Ricky Morton, he immediately told me I needed to go up to his school to do a show. So I remember, actually the first time I met him, I actually wrestled him.
Oh, nice.
And it was a 6-man tag. And I hadn't even been wrestling a full year yet. And this was during the pandemic. Or we did an outdoor show. I forget when, but it was in Gastonia, somewhere in Gastonia, North Carolina. And somebody was supposed to be in that match. I wasn't supposed to originally be in that match. And Ricky was supposed to be in the main. And the person that was going to be in that match they lived far away. So they were getting late to the show. And apparently Ricky wanted to leave early. So he asked if he could be bumped up on the card, right before intermission. And they were like, well, nobody, you're one of the guys for the other team's not there yet. And I remember they put me in there, and, we had that 6-man tag, and then I went up to his school the next day, and it was me, Braden Marshall, and Christopher Prince. Oh. We trained some with Ricky Morton's son, and he was just and Ricky was great to us. Just an overall great human being. I saw him at that a show a few weeks ago. It was in Ashbrook High School. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
Locker room, and I talked to him there, and he was just. I really thought he wouldn't. I feel like a guy that him has been around so long and sees different people all the time, different areas of the world. He's not going to remember me, but every time he acts like he knows me. So I'm like, does he remember me, or is he just
Dude, I know exactly what you mean, man. Because Ricky, we're so lucky to have Ricky around the Carolinas as much as we do,
yeah.
And he talks to me when he comes around, he sees me, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, Ricky acknowledged me. So yeah. I know exactly what you mean, man. But he's so fun that sometimes I can't tell him he's joking or not. So because he's always joking, so it's
I do have one more funny.
Go for it.
Funny. So I was in the locker room, and it was him. When him and Robert Gibson are around, they kind of play off each other. You'll hear them arguing, and it's just funny. But this was hilarious. It was at a show, and his phone starts ringing. He's like saying it's his wife, and he starts cussing. He's like, I told this, never call me while I'm at wrestling. And he's really bad. And then he answers the phone, and he's like, oh, hey baby, how you doing? It just changed. I just started laughing. It was so funny.
Oh, dude. No, yeah. Ricky's a character, man. Robert is just as funny too, man. Next time you see Robert, ask him to tell you a joke. He's got a bunch of just quick one-liners that are just great, his impression of a duck. Yeah, it's great stuff, man. All right, so next question is, do you have a George South story?
George South. I mean, I'm so I not really a story, but just the George South experience. He's texted me a lot over the last 2 years. Just telling me he's praying for me all the time. He's thinking of me, and he's just he's just a great guy. Every time I see him, we'll talk, and he's just always been really good to me. So I mean, I'd love to wrestle him and learn from him, because that's a guy that's been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
To me, those are the best workers, because I mean, you can do all the moves, but and have all these great matches, but if you're done before you're 40, it's like, you know, are what's a good worker? I mean, a good worker to me has longevity.
Oh yeah,
And
George has definitely got it.
that's for me saying, I love Dynamite Kid, but you know, he wasn't walking by the time he was 40. He did so much, crazy and impactful things. So
Yeah, very true.
just crazy. You could, how you have a guy like George South and Ricky Morton. They're nearing, up there in age, but man, they still can go.
Oh yeah, man, and they're both still very entertaining. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. I totally. That's like, it reminds me of that show we were at in Greensboro, right? Where it was Ricky and Tommy against George and the Cooker, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there was 10 minutes of them just bantering in the ring before the match even started, and I was crying. Like, it was just, like,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah,
They're great.
Good stuff. I'm with you.
And that was the first time I've ever met Tommy Rich, which was great. He's great, another great guy.
Oh yeah, Tommy's a great one too, man. All right, so this is our big question, and it's if you could only watch one wrestling match for the rest of your life, which match would it be?
Man, that's got to be, for me. It's got to be, if you're going to watch any match, I would love to watch Benoit and Guerrero matches.
Oh,
And you can do it different eras too. You could do when Benoit was Wild Pegasus and Guerrero was Black Tiger, or you can do the stuff in the WWE. To me, it's all great.
oh man, I'm with you there. Those are go hard, quick actions. Yeah,
And just the mat work on that is technical. They do the modern moves, but they build up to them. They start out with that crisp mat wrestling, and it's just great. And then they get into the big moves of the match, and they hit them, and they mean stuff. They don't just hit a move for no reason. There's great matches if you're wanting to learn, and how to put a match together. Watch those matches. They're great.
no, I totally agree, man. I'm a big fan of the technical wrestling. I mean, I love the the big moves, the big spot moves and stuff. But yeah, like, I guess it's different when I know how hard it is to do the technical things.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm always impressed at how smooth people can be when they're doing that. So yeah, totally with you on that, man.
And it's like, like Benoit and Guerrero, like, mid 90s in Japan, when you watch those matches, it's like, man, this is like watching, Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask. I sent, my girlfriend, she's into wrestling some, not as much as I am. She likes to watch like Dark Side of the Ring, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I sent her, Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask, and she thought that Tiger Mask was Eddie Guerrero, and I was like, no, that Eddie, that was 10 years later is when Eddie Guerrero was Black Tiger.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah, no, that's cool, man. It's awesome that your girlfriend at least is involved somehow when it comes to wrestling, man. My wife is zero into it, so it's me and my little one, man. We do everything together.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm just glad she doesn't take it from me.
Right. I used to bring her to some of the shows, but she hasn't. She has a little bit of a health issue, so when she gets better, she'll probably start coming back, because she loves going to them.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. My wife said when so my son is 10. You've seen him. He's with me every time. He's in amateur wrestling right now.
Man,
yeah, He Zuka King and Dave Dawson actually. They're always buddy with him. And after one match one day, he was like, "I think I want to do this," and I was like, "Well, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right." So, amateur wrestling, jiu-jitsu's up on the way, and then we've got 6 years of that before he can even do anything pro. So,
look, what I respect to kids that they're 17, 16, jumping into pro wrestling, but man, it's do amateur wrestling, build that foundation, and you'll have legitimacy to you. When you do pro wrestling, of course, I've always told people, because I did amateur wrestling for 13 years.
Nice.
Amateur wrestling it's tougher, in my opinion. It's more, it's tougher on you, but pro wrestling is more dangerous and harder on the body. So it's, they're both, hard things. But where's your son? Where's he training amateur wrestling?
He is at Matt Masters.
Oh, I was about to say that. Is it Matt Masters? Yeah, I know Matt Masters. Their coach, I forgot his name.
Coach Hewitt?
Yep. Hewitt.
Yeah.
Son who wrestled, who was good. So yeah, man, keep them there, make them go to some tournaments, and just build up that fountain, because the more amateur wrestling, jiu-jitsu, if he wants to be a pro, because that's what I did. Whenever I started amateur wrestling, was because I wanted to do pro wrestling. And I remember first time I ever went, I didn't like it because it wasn't like pro.
Oh yeah.
And I just stuck with it, and I kind of got out of pro wrestling as the years went on, but when my amateur wrestling career was done, I got bored and started pro wrestling.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, man. And it's awesome. Like I got him in there because like I did a little bit of wrestling in high school. It wasn't a lot, but I was like, this is a good basic foundation, right? Like, learning to shoot, like, shooting the half and double leg takedowns and all that good jazz. And I'm like, we're stocky guys. We're short, stocky guys. I'm like, ground game is what we're gonna live on.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So amateur wrestling and jiu-jitsu are like hand in hand. And then I think 6 years of that should help build a very sound base for when George gets a hold of them.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yep.
You can always tell the guys that didn't do sports when they were younger, and all they'd done was, they jumped into pro wrestling. You can tell a difference between the two. So doing it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So the last thing I got for you is tell everyone on social media tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
So if you want to, give me a follow, or, add me on Facebook. So if you go to Instagram, it's Chase _Emery, EMERY _wrestling. So that's my Instagram. If you go to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now, it's Chase _Emery 98. And then Facebook is just Chase Emery.
Awesome.
So go to those three, give me a follow. I post probably the most on Instagram and Facebook, but every now and then I'll post on Twitter, and
Yeah. But yeah, man, that's really all we have on this. And like I said, man, I really appreciate your time, and thanks for knowing who I am before we even touched base. That was really neat for me. That was a first.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah, man. So appreciate that. And yeah, I'm sure I'll see you probably in a couple of weeks. Let's see, I'm going to see you at WrestleForce.
Okay. So
yeah. So I'll see you very soon, man.
I got a big title defense coming up there.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to that.
Awesome.
So, yep. All right, buddy. We'll catch you soon. Take care. Have a good night.
Good.
All right.